topic of today now, lightweight solutions to monitor shipbuilding. And I've tried to visualize that on this slide here. What is a typical situation many people face in shipbuilding, namely that you only have a fuzzy picture of what's going on in the shipyard. So of course, every shipyard, every shipbuilding project, you have some idea, of course, what is the status, but typically you lack a bit of the details of what's going on. And that's what is illustrated here. So you see there's a few blocks, a few things being constructed at the moment, but if you ask yourself, okay, what is the exact status? Where might be the problems currently, or where's maybe material missing, or whatever issue might block you here in executing your project successfully, this is typically very hard to answer. And this is the exact problem we try to solve here, is changing that situation of a fuzzy picture of your shipbuilding project into something illustrated here on the next slide, which is a very clear and transparent overview of what's going on. So for instance, for each and every thing you're working on here in your shipbuilding project, you know the exact progress percentage, like 90%, 80%, 70%, whatever. And you see already how detailed our, let's say, expectation here on your actual indication of the actual progress is. You then want to compare that to the plan and say, okay, maybe the actual progress is 90%, but the expected one is 100%. And then, of course, also make a deep dive here and know, okay, if you're behind schedule here, what is the reason for that? And all of these questions we try to answer with our solution, but in a very lightweight way, so that you don't need to change your entire shipyard or large scale process changes, but just introducing a small tool that helps you with achieving this goal. Well, you might ask yourself, okay, if that's the goal, why is that important to me? And I think the answer is pretty obvious. Of course, for all stakeholders in the shipbuilding industries, it's important. Is an optimal shipbuilding project and successful project outcomes is a very important thing. It starts, of course, from shipyards, maybe starting from shipyards most active in the new building sector, because you need to know what's going on in detail if you want to fulfill your main duty, namely to coordinate work across trades, areas, subcontractors, and so on perfectly. In order to make that successfully, this coordination, you of course need to know what is the current status in order to make the right decisions for the next activities. We also work with repair yards. That's here, I would say, from my experience, the focus is a bit shifted. It's, of course, coordination is also important, but from my, let's say, feeling, the focus is here slightly different. Mostly we talk about, let's say, bringing up the actual work list before you start a project. So what is the scope of work? As we will see in a moment, a huge part of our system, or the key part of our system, is a mobile app. And that's quite handy because you can use that app then to, let's say, log certain work items, all the work items you want to do during some vessel inspections directly on site with photos and so on, and then compile the work list for later estimation, activity planning, and so on. And then, of course, for repair yards, it's also important. Such projects are never 100% predictable. So if you find extra work, it's the same process essentially. You can then just make a proper report through the mobile device. You lock down the actual effort so that you have the data you need to make proper invoicing here. The next branch here apparently is subcontractors. And here finally the perspective of course changes a bit from the coordination perspective, or let's say work item perspective, to enabling subcontractors to provide a verifiable proof of work done. So they are mostly interested in getting, let's say, the required records to say, this is the stuff we have done, this is the stuff you have accepted, and this is the stuff we're going to invoice you now for. And this is where we greatly help with our solution. And also you might have the situation as a subcontractor that you want to work, but you might be blocked by other circumstances. Maybe some other trade hasn't finished work in time, or you might face the issue of missing materials, whatever it is. You then get the means here to log those things properly to make sure that you're not the person in the end, of the company in the end, that pays for others' faults, basically. And then last but not least, we also serve owners and managers. I think that's currently where most of our activities are going on. The use case is called new building supervision. Here, the typical case that you deploy on your remote shipyard where you build your assets, you deploy the supervisors. They are assisted here by our system in order to verify on your behalf that your quality expectations are basically met by the work of the shipyard. And then, of course, you get the side effect based on the data stream from the shipyard. You get a very well picture here of what's going on. So you get a good overview of whether your vessel will eventually delivered on time or not. And if not, I mean, we can't really change that for you, but at least you know what's going on and you can react for your own business matter accordingly. Well, I hope that this full bunch of advantages we offer here is kind of attractive for you and already raised the question in your head, okay, now if you can promise all this stuff, how should that work in practice? Let's have a look to the process that we propose here. At the heart of the process is our mobile app. The mobile app is really important because that actually becomes your eyes and ears on site, providing you with we also always say a real time, but it's most importantly a data stream, which is much different to just hearing or believing. So the app is actually the thing that enables the data stream that you want to have. So you would equip whoever has a kind of supervisor's role in your project, might be, let's say, just classical supervisors, construction managers, foremen, whatever your organization and structure looks like, whoever is doing supervising or fulfilling supervising duties would get that mobile app. And this allows those people to report status or issues with just a few taps on the mobile phone. And this is really important because, first of all, it's minimizing the reporting overhead for those people significantly. That's good because you save a bit of money, but this is most important because you would drive the adoption. So you need to convince those people to actually do that. And if that's, let's say, minimal overhead, actually minimizing the overhead compared to manual reporting, then of course you get an advantage. And if they are motivated to report, you get the data you're looking for. In practice, and I won't spend a lot of time here because Mateusz will show that in live, which is much better. But from left to right, you see here the main workflows and screenshots from the mobile app. On the left here, just reporting status. It's just a single click. I think it's pretty obvious. But you can also do, let's say, open new issues, which is more or less like a click on plus and giving that a title, or making photos, which is one of the core features here of the app. And the photos then are of course immediately connected to the issue. You don't need to worry about copying things back and forth or searching, organizing. That's all a thing of the past here. So with all that data, it gets now forwarded to something we call a control center. It's basically a database with a desktop interface. And this is the place where you can access this detailed picture that we have, let's say, promised here at the beginning, where you see all the details in one, let's say, summary. And this is supposed to be used for the control of daily activities. And it may look like this one. Again, Mateusz will show that in live in a moment. But what you see here already, it's a long list of things going on. And whenever you click on something, you will get here on the right side, you will get, let's say, a summary record of that. And you see all the information that is connected to this thing here in one single place. And if needed, you can even export that to external documents. It's, for instance, if you need to make some report to some external instance. As I said, this is supposed to be used for the management of daily operations. So this is for those people on site, down to earth here, to decide, okay, where do I need to put my attention on, what needs to be done next, and so on. But it might not be the perfect way to report status for, let's say, more the senior management levels. And for that, we have a third level here in our process, or a third step, so to say, which is titled here as dashboards and reports. And this is basically providing the summarized reporting that gives you the overall impression of the project. This is driven by data, so that has two effects. First of all, it can be fully automated, no need to make manual reports, quite an advantage. And second thing, it's much more reliable because it's, again, not believing, but it's, let's say, data driven, which makes things much, much better in that case. It may look like this one of our example dashboards, starting from, let's say, various kind of KPIs we can calculate, showing graphs, making this kind of matrices, also making some very stunning visualizations, but that's all left for Matthäus' demo in a moment. That's one of the examples we can do. One thing I would rather focus on here, and then my part here already comes to an end, is how to integrate this solution. I think that's always a very, very important question. We are a very small tool. It's basically the mobile app and that small desktop application. It fits to a place where typically you won't find any other solution. So those people are typically just working with the standard tools here. There's nothing dedicated normally. From this point, basically, we just integrate with any other system you have in place. That's most importantly, of course, planning and ERP systems. And what we typically do then, now looking at the shipyard's perspective, pulling the project plan, synchronizing that with, let's say, the mobile devices, and whatever the status is reported and relevant for those downstream systems, we just push that information back. That works either through an external data connector, which is very easy to use and deploy, or we also have an API to make any sophisticated integration possible. In that case, we are really a small tool, but really powerful add-on to your entire workflow, which is eventually easy to integrate. A last property or characteristic of our solution, it's also lean, kind of complementing the first one. Lean here means it's also, let's say, not only small, but it's also very easy. And that first of all means easy to use. So we give our best to make all our interfaces as easy to use as possible. Saves you a bit of budget here to make these training sessions with your people. That's typically not required. And if you don't need to have training, I mean, it's the people working on the production side mostly. It drives adoption quite significantly. It's also easy to implement, not to confuse with the part of easy to integrate we have discussed before. Easy to implement means it's super easy to get started. So our default offering is a managed cloud solution. You need to have a login, you need to download the app, and you're ready to start. Now next, the discussion with the IT department. If you're enable shipbuilding, we also offer a on-premise deployment. That's of course a bit more difficult, but still, I would say in comparison to other systems, quite easy. But yeah, as long as you're not in that domain, of course, managed cloud solution, and you're ready to go within a few hours. All right, with that being said, my part of the presentation is already over, and then I'm more than happy to hand over to Matthäus to step into the next part, namely the live demo. Matthäus, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now share my screen and hope that it's now visible for the attendees.
Yes, looks good.
Yes, perfect. I have the reaction as well. I'm happy. Okay. Yes, so as Sebastian already mentioned, Seavizor is a desktop application and a mobile app, and I will show both of those to you now in this product demo. Starting with the desktop application, and this is because I want you to understand the data structure that we have here. This is the welcome screen of Seavizor application. You can see a pretty simple interface here with a project switcher in the top, where you see all the projects your user account is assigned to. Then we have some user menu that allows you to access for admin interface if you have proper permissions, and changing password, logging out, everything. That's pretty simple. And then each project in Seavizor is built in the same way, so we can expect the same interface every time, except of part of the top part of the left side menu, which is the main menu to select project assets. This may change depending on the project configuration, which I will talk about in a moment, because we designed and we built Seavizor with two things in mind. First of all, simple interfaces. So to make it, as Sebastian also mentioned, we want people to be able to use it out of the box without any special training. And in most of the cases, it works like that. And second thing is that we designed it with this flexibility in mind. But I will mention that in a moment. Let's now focus on this one of the demo projects that we have here, which is the new building supervision, which is very clear and simple way to present Seavizor's capabilities, I would say. Here in the bottom part of the menu, it starts showing the regular items that we would see on any other project, and those are the features that are directed for generally reporting and using and making use of the data that you have collected with the mobile app. In this example, our key asset in this project is the inspection. In the new building supervision, we have supervisors, in most of the cases in some remote shipyard, making inspections according to some predefined schedule, or making the inspections, building the inspections along the project execution. It depends. Sometimes it's combined. There is some of them planned and some of them then created later on. It doesn't make any difference for the system. You can import the inspection plan first, and then you can modify it, and then everything will synchronize automatically here. What it looks like, this looks like a normal Excel table. Very familiar. Each row represents a single inspection, and there is, of course, a lot of metadata related to each of those inspections. Most importantly, some dates and the status progress of specific inspection. We have other assets here as well, which I will talk about in a moment. But let's start now with those inspections. This table is like, as I said, like a normal Excel table. So you can either filter this data, or you can sort those inspections based on any column and search. If you know what you are searching for, if it's, for example, a block number, then you can quickly find it through the search input, which is probably exactly as you would do in Excel. The data has been fed to this system from some external source. In this case, this was just an Excel sheet because it was easy for us to make for a demo, but it can be a synchronization with other planning system, and it's bi-directional. So whenever something changes here, it's also exposed to the external application to be read and processed. And I will show this to you as well in a moment. Now, let's pick one of those records here. Now, probably something on top of Excel. You have a form that provides all the information that you can also read in the table, but it's now in a bit more organized way, and also some controls to make operations on that specific inspection entry. We can change the status, we can download documents, attachments, punch items, or inspection comments, however we call it. We have access to some attachments that have been already added to that specific inspection. We can imagine that there might be some construction plan, some block plan, or assembly drawings. In this case, of course, some dummy PDFs. And we have our inspection comments reported some by a site team on site through the mobile app with some pictures, comments, and so on. So those are this is how you access the data, and most of this data has been collected by the mobile devices on site. Now I have clicked back on my browser, and I'm back here. Okay, so we have comments as well, and we have a task history. So everything that is changed in the system, no matter if the mobile application or desktop application, can be later accessed in the history with a timestamp, who changed what and where. Also, this is something that is also on top of regular Excel capability, because you can track whatever changes has been made in the system. Okay, so this is basics of the user interface, and this is actually everything except of the things of the reporting things that I will show you in a moment. But let's now focus on this main table here and how reporting from on site in the mobile device would look like. So we have to switch to the mobile app interface here. As you can see, this is quite simple application, as Sebastian told you already, and this is on purpose like that because we want the people in the front lines to actually use that and not to be frustrated with some overhead work and so on. So we make it as simple as possible. Welcome screen, which shows you what are the changes that you've made and they are not synchronized with the database so far, and the last update. And why do we want to see that? It's because this app, what is unique about this app compared to regular applications on our mobile phones, is that it works offline. So it has a copy of the same database internally in the mobile device, and all the changes are recorded locally without any internet connection, because of course the very reasonable question is how would we work with a mobile app below the deck where there is usually no or very little internet connection. And the answer to that is this app has been designed with that in mind. So it works offline and collects all the changes, and whenever we get to the internet, it automatically synchronizes with the database. And also it does it in a very organized way. So with the timestamps, it knows when every change occurred, and also sorts those changes according to the actual timing of the event. Then we have a project switcher, the same projects as we've seen in the desktop application. And then we have recent issues, which is quite handy because you would get back quickly to the things that you've been opening recently. Then the main menu, which is exactly the same as the main menu on the desktop application, except of the reporting part that is not represented here because the app is not supposed to be used for browsing the reports. It's about recording the data or browsing through specific project features and adding data, capturing data on site. We can open one of the tables like inspection tables. We have filters, we have search, works the same way as the desktop application. If you once set up your filters, it will be remembered. So in most of the cases, if the person is responsible for a certain trade or block, they would have it saved, and they don't have to select or filter the tasks every time they need to use the app. So this also makes it a bit more convenient. And okay, so my plan was now to show you how to report stuff through this mobile app, and let's do it. So I've opened one of the inspections here, but this one is closed. So let's pick another one, and I prepared actually this one because there is already one comment, and the inspection is still open, so we can assume it's ongoing. So let's select the same inspection here on the mobile app. I accessed it before, so I will just pick it here from the recent items. And here on the main screen of this specific inspection, you'll see the status, of course, some latest updates information, and all the metadata that you also see in the desktop application. So you can now change those metadata if you wish. I won't mess with that now. But more importantly, I'll be able to see all the other features that I have shown you in the desktop application. So if I'm interested in punch items or inspection comments, I would see the same inspection comments here with the photos, descriptions, and so on. I would see all the attachments that are relevant for the inspection itself, so the documents. One very handy feature of Seavizor is that you can load those drawings on the desktop application, because probably you have those big PDFs somewhere on your drive. You can load those assembly drawings or whatever instructions, manuals on the desktop application, synchronize, and then bring it on board and have it accessible offline on site. That's pretty handy to have those documents with you. Even if maybe browsing PDFs on mobile is not super handy, but it can be also a tablet or whatever device, because the app would work with that anyways. And then we have comments that, on this case, we don't have any comments on the level of this specific inspection, but we will touch the comments as well. Now, we wanted to record the punch item, or maybe better name here would be, as I mentioned, the inspection comment, but we can adjust this naming convention. This is part of what I was saying about this flexibility that we had in mind in designing the application, is that all of those things that you can see, those punch items and those relations, this is very quickly configurable from our admin interface. So if your site team got used to naming something in a specific way, which is very common as far as we have observed so far, and that's why we've made it like that, so we can very quickly change those naming conventions. You can name it whatever you like, even in the native language, if this is happening somewhere else. So we now go to the so-called punch item. We create a new one. Let's make some comment. The photo that I have prepared on my emulator, because obviously emulator doesn't have a camera, so I have some dummy photo prepared for that. And this is about the hatch cover. So let's write something about the hatch cover. Hatch cover bolts are missing, whatever. And now we can elaborate on that. We can also select some specific metadata for that punch item if we are interested from the dropdown, but let's skip it for now. We create this punch item. It appears here with a default status open. And now, of course, we would be mostly interested in showing someone what exactly is the hatch cover that we are talking about. So now we make a photo. We take this emulated picture here. Normally it would be just a back camera of the phone. We take a photo. We can also take another one if we are interested in another hatch cover, whatever. So we create those photos here, and now our punch item has the photos attached. And okay, we assume that we were on board and there was no internet connection, so whenever we go outside, the application would synchronize this information with the central database. Now it happened immediately, so I don't have any unsynced changes, because whenever this app has access to the internet, it would synchronize immediately. You can also do it manually by pulling down the screen so that you make sure this synchronization has happened. Now, if we reload our interface and access this inspection, you would get your hatch cover bolts are missing comment here, along with the photos and everything else that that you have recorded. Now, let's maybe assume that we want to make some discussion on that specific case, on that specific problem. So let's assume that our site team has recorded this problem, and we noticed that by filtering by a number of open punch items, and then we want to address this somehow in the site office on the desktop system. So we can put a comment, for example. So how to resolve that? For example, we can say that let's solve it after launching the ship. Probably not a good idea with the hatch cover, but let's do it like that. We could also add some photo here or some document that says that this kind of issue should be resolved later on. We added the comment, and now on the mobile application, now the mobile app doesn't know that something has changed immediately. So I would pull down just to make sure it syncs, because then it only does it once in a while. And then if I go to my punch item and to my comments, then I have my comment here, and I can agree on that or whatever. And of course, in this case, it's me and me because this is the same user, so I can talk with myself. But generally, this is how the comments work. It can save you a lot of time on some emailing, making some notes, or some personal discussions on. You can very quickly put a comment, and you immediately know what it is about, because it's about specific inspection comment or a punch item that we are talking about. Okay, so this is fine. We know how our mobile application works and how it synchronized data with our desktop system or our database. But now we would like to make use of this data somehow. So we assume that this inspection has been finalized. Let's assume that this is closed because we added another status that would indicate that we solved this later on. And then we assume that our entire inspection has been completed. And then we would like to, and this is very common as far as we learned from our clients, this is very common that some kind of a paper document needs to be created in that case, especially for handing over to the shipyard. And now what kicks in is our document templates feature, which allow you to configure, and allow us to configure for you, or you to configure for yourself, so-called document template. So in this case, we have some dummy template that pulls out all the data of this specific inspection, leaves a space for signatures, and puts all the comments into the table, so you can see what were the problems, whether they are solved and with what status, and then what is the status of the inspection. You can sign it, print it, and archive it, which is probably very common for most of the new building supervision cases like this. If we would be then interested in getting all these punch items all together, for example, handing over some summary report to the shipyard or generating a report for our client, then let's maybe start with the punch items. So you can access any asset of the project separately, so as a separate table. In this case, for example, our punch items. This would be in the normal project probably thousands of records with different problems that have been recorded. But if you don't want to, or you can't give access to that system to the shipyard, in most of the cases they wouldn't mind to use your own system to access this information, then you can generate another type of reports, which are reports that are generally about the entire project. So they are built on the basis of all the inputs that have been made to the system. They are also configurable, so they are also made based on a template, and then this template can be any template that you normally use in your organization. You download this, you generate this report, and it's generated and saved in the system with a certain timestamp. I wouldn't generate this bigger one right now because it takes a moment to generate a bigger file here, but I would take one that was generated some time ago. And now when we open it, we see a general summary of the project. So it can be a weekly or monthly report that supervision company sends to their client, can have visual reporting, so some either our PDF-based pictures, which I will talk about in a moment, or just photos of the progress, general photos of the progress, or any statistics, any information that we have in the database that have been reported with the mobile app can be reflected here. So in this case, I have some pending inspections as of this specific date, because this is how this system is configured. And this lists all the pending inspections that are open and should have been closed so far. And we have punch item statistics, and this is basically a list of all punch items with photos and problems that have been discovered on the project. And it doesn't have our last new punch items because this was generated a while ago. So this kind of a report, or maybe just the punch items, depending on how you would wish to configure that, you could hand over to the shipyard and ask them to resolve those problems. One thing that we've seen in the report, but I haven't shown you yet in the system here, is those visual reports. So we have a pretty smart feature of translating PDF documents. It requires a minimal human interaction with the PDF. Generates this kind of an interactive picture that colorizes, depending on what kind of subdivision we pick. In this case, we have the ship subdivided by blocks. It creates those interactive pictures that indicate the status of inspections in this case, or whatever tasks or whatever kind of asset you would like to track here, and indicates the average progress, overall number of inspections in certain status. As you can see, one of those inspections, one of those punch items in this case has been made in comments. So now I see the status here. I see how many inspections are there, how many punch items are there, what is the average progress, and so on and so forth. And this updates every time anything changes in the mobile app. Someone puts some data in the mobile app, this immediately updates. And also those pictures are possible to be brought to the project report. So that's how the system integrates, collects all this data from the mobile devices, and allows for very quick and simple reporting. And this was the new building supervision example, quite straightforward. It can be much more complicated than that. We've made it a bit more simple here, just to showcase the ideas. Actually, most of the new building supervision examples, it is the real life projects are not much more complicated than that. They usually have a bit more features like those daily photos and so on, but it's basically this. But for example, for new building supervision, we have other demos here. We can access. For example, we can go to the project plan demo, another one that we have. And this is the demo project that is imitating the tracking of progress in the new build shipyard. And as you can see, it looks a bit different than the first one. And this is not different system or anything like that. It's the same system, just a bit different configuration. But this is something that we can do within a day, knowing your requirements. So it's not that we had to do any development here. We can configure the system to reflect completely different use cases. And of course, this one is still quite simple. We have our work steps here, which is the main asset. So some pieces of work that are supposed to be executed by the shipyard with a bit more metadata, because this project is made specifically for showcasing the external reporting function. We have a lot of dates here: planned start, planned end of the activity, actual start, actual end, and the status. And now the system here in the resources page, which I haven't shown you so far, but this is basically for data integrations, exposes a special link. And this link is accessible through external application, includes a secret that provides access to the data. And now you can easily configure a dashboard. We can easily configure a dashboard, or maybe it's something on your side that you use currently for your reporting, but we can easily configure a dashboard that would pull the data. And now this is what is happening. So this is now pulling the data from Seavizor, the most updated version of the database, and prints the project health dashboard. This is a bit more complex than regular reporting. We have some metrics showing us the recent issues or recent progress in last 7 days, last 4 weeks, with some tasks being made in advance, which is good. Then we have overall project statistics, and then something that is, in our opinion, and also what comes from the discussions with different stakeholders in the industry, very handy for tracking the overall project health, which is this progress chart, burn-up chart, in other words. And this basically shows you the planned progress at given date versus the actual progress. And you can see, for example, here in this part of this project, we had a bit of an overlap between what was planned and what is the actual. What was the actual progress. We can also divide this to weeks and months and years, and observe in detail when the problem happened. In this case, maybe this was because of some, I don't know, vacation period or so on. So there is a bit of a gap between plan and the actually executed work. Of course, in most of the cases, we would probably look at the overall picture here. And then if you would be interested in what's specifically, what is specifically happening right now in the project, you might be interested in this kind of a matrix that shows you on one axis, it shows you the phases of the production, and then a subdivision that you select. So in this case, we have sections. We could also subdivide by compartments and observe what's the progress versus the plan on specific activities, on specific project phases. I think it's quite handy, and yeah, we need to understand that all this is only possible because we have a data stream, a reliable data stream that comes from on-site and in real time. So it's not that someone provides us an Excel after 2 weeks that something has been done because it's already outdated by 2 weeks. We want to get this data immediately. We also want to get this data detailed enough so people having a mobile device and making notes very quickly, immediately after they notice a problem or they are notified by the third party about the problem, then this data immediately lands on our dashboards. And that's the key concept here. We want to shorten this reporting time to very, very minimum and make it as detailed as possible, or maybe as detailed as you want, because of course, if the perfect situation would be to know everything and then process this data. But of course, we also have limited time on reporting on site. So we have to find the balance. And this is basically configurable to any level of detail you would be interested in. Okay, I think from the product or from the user interface point of view, this would be it. It could be much more because there is a bit more features, things that we could showcase, but let's skip it for now. If you'd be specifically interested in something, we are always happy to connect and show you the details. I will now hand over to Sebastian, and let's maybe go through Q&A.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Matthias. Let me briefly share back my screen here. I think you found already the way, because I see a single question over there already. If not, as a short reminder to ask questions, please use on the bottom right corner this encircle button to open the side menu and then navigate to the Q&A section to write down your question. Yeah. So the first question, and so far the only question that has arrived here, apparently all other questions have been answered on the presentation already, is a more organizational one. Whether we would provide the link to this presentation later on in order to share that with other people. Yes, we do. So that's the exact reason we have done a recording or do a recording of that let's say webinar today, and we will ship that rather soonish, maybe this week or at the beginning of next week with you, so that you can share the recording with other people. Any further questions? Please feel free to drop them. Yeah. part of that, I could just add, I think Matthäus has a bit overtaken my closing remarks part here already, with fortunately already emphasizing that we have shown a lot of stuff, of course, today. A lot of, let's say, also analysis, status reporting, possibilities. And I think that's exactly what Matthäus said here at the end of his presentation. The key enabler of all that stuff is that we have that data stream from the site personnel. Because if you don't have the data, and I think it's one of the key aspects that got us moving here with Seavizor, was a guy from a German shipyard that told me personally, you know, we have plenty of tools to plan, we have plenty of tools to visualize data, but we don't have data. And yeah, that's the exact problem we want to solve here. We have today shown basically one specific solution to that problem, which is equipping people on site with a mobile app, which, let's say, kind of brings them into a position to create data more easily. That has a few challenges. Most importantly, as we all know, aboard a vessel, of course, the internet connection is, let's say, not always available. Matter of thing within a steel cage. But our app for this reason works offline, is synchronizing later on, and that makes the difference here. And then you can, let's say, use that data in order to fulfill a lot of, let's say, reporting and data analysis use cases that might help you eventually to improve, of course, your shipbuilding project management. All right. Yeah, I don't see any further questions here. No, there does not seem to appear anymore. So then I would suggest that we just close that session a bit ahead of time. That's actually also the thing we want to achieve with Seavizor, right? Finishing up shipbuilding projects faster than planned. That would be the ideal situation. So I thank you very much for your attention, for attending here our webinar. If you have any questions down the line, please don't hesitate to drop us a message. We will also share the record with you. And yeah, looking forward to get in touch soon again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.